What keeps you awake at night?
Sea levels are rising globally.
Fears fueled by horror stories.
Among the worst flu season in a decade, and it hasn't peaked yet.
We all know the atomic bomb is very dangerous.
Another series of deadly terror attacks.
I don't want to be blamed if you cannot get to sleep tonight.
Oh, okay. So we're all in very different positions today. Well, not Bree. Bree's still in a fucking tent. I am in a closet. I've moved to my closet in LA, and there is so little room in here that I am currently in leapfrog position recording, which in the moment seemed right. I can't move my hands.
Well, you don't need your hands to talk, Olivia. Suffer for your art.
I guess I could put like an auto scroll on my script.
Yeah. Just talk really fast.
I'm like, okay, the script cuts off here and I can't move my arms, so I'm gonna improvise it from here.
Use your nose.
Oh, Christ. I can't. Okay, sure. And
or
then
you could put like a long series of straws in your mouth. And then like slowly.
Perfect.
Yeah. I'm a problem solver.
Brooke's in a closet as well.
I am also in a closet, but I was able to fit a small table in my closet.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Hopefully,
3 bitches in a closet.
When I move, I'm gonna get a better audio situation. I'm moving in December, so hopefully that setup will be better.
Which kind of bums me out because I was really looking forward to this one segment. I'm gonna say this segment now since you're moving.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna do it anymore.
So essentially every
wait, hold on. I'm so sorry. Perfect timing, because they just started drumming.
Awesome.
Good.
So let's play a game called What the Fuck Are Bree's Roommates Doing? Essentially,
this time it's a free pass because we already know, but yeah.
So essentially every time that I edit, like noise happens. Like there's been occasions like when my parents open the garage door, it gets picked up by my audio. It is what it is. Brooke's got kittens who insist on eating the mic. Right, like
they do like microphone.
Mistakes
apparently.
happen, right?
Their diet consists of kibble and microphone.
Bree's roommates don't understand the concept of keeping it down. Like, there's not a lot that you can do about kittens or like my parents literally doing household chores. But like every single week, without fail, Bree's like, "Hey guys." Going down to the basement to record like I do literally every week at the same time. And they're like, yeah, sounds great. And then they start drumming. They play the drums. I've heard guitar. Last time I edited, I heard the sound that I can really only describe as they hauled in like 4.5 inches of fresh winter snow and then
Jesus
put on
Christ.
snow boots and crunched through them above her head. Like that's...
It did kind of sound like that, didn't it?
It did.
Well, this is, to be fair, a lot of us in Portland wear like heavy Doc Marten boots, like
threw
just for the
4
aesthetic
inches of
it.
fresh powder in your kitchen, Bree.
Oh no.
Yeah, so we were gonna make a whole segment out of like what are Bree's roommates doing, and just play little audio clips just to try to make sense of it all. Because sometimes you're like, all right, well. Clearly her roommate is wonderwalling it while she's trying to talk about HIV, but but sometimes I just couldn't figure out what the sound was.
And after all,
you're my
Oh, I hate this.
So, I'm glad we started out on a light note with a light roast. We can all enjoy a light roast.
A light roast. Well, because honestly, and to be fair, like, I've only talked to him about it twice. I mean, I don't know.
Wait, so you actually brought up the noise?
Yeah.
Oh, only twice? Wow, then they should be able to make as much noise as they want. Good lord, you've talked to them twice.
That's enough times, in my opinion.
Once I feel like is enough.
Yeah, because once I feel like, oh shit, I didn't realize that my drums, which are the loudest possible instrument you could play.
They're percussive by nature. That's the point. They're percussion instruments.
Anyway, let's get back to what we were going to talk about today. Drums aside.
Drums keep me up at night.
Drums aside. Today we're doing a fun little mini-sode called I guess what are we calling this? Like,
Wait, no, we gotta introduce ourselves.
oh
lads.
fuck,
right.
might be. Hi, welcome to Things That Keep Me Up at Night. I'm Olivia.
I am Brooke.
And I'm one frustrated Brie. How are you?
And today I want to call this like campfire horror stories. Like, this is cute as hell.
Yeah.
I'm gonna edit some like crackling of the fire and maybe some crickets if I'm feeling spicy. in the
Olivia,
background
don't
of
tell them
this.
it's editing. You're breaking the magic.
Come on, we're actually camping in a
We are
forest
camping
together.
right now in this moment.
In closets in the forest.
Shut up.
You're ruining the fantasy RPG. Come on.
Realism. So today
We're
we're gonna
artists.
be we're artists. Today we're all gonna be reading like a little folklorish tale. I fucking hated researching this because I'm a giant pussy. So like we'll get to mine, and I know that mine is stupid, okay? But I definitely slept with the light on after I read this story. So
Olivia.
I'm a giant pussy, okay?
I'm so excited to find out how lame this is.
So if we would like to go around, if we were to give the soapbox to Bree, here you go.
Oh, do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. For this week's minisode, in the spirit of my favorite holiday, we were doing something extra spoopy. Urban legends. At first, I wanted to do something like Mothman, Bigfoot, or more stereotypical fright, right? But I found this gem, and it freaks me the fuck out. It always has. It's been something I've been holding over me since I was 7 years old.
Oh, boy.
I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's just baby Bree was very scared of it, and now it's carried over. So without further ado, let's get into it, boys. So I actually remember, like, hearing this urban legend, like I said, when I was in elementary school, when I was a kid, and there's, like, multiple versions of it. But every single time I get in my car, I always check the back seat because of it. This is Killer in the Back Seat. Have you guys heard this urban legend?
Yeah, I
this
love
myth?
this one. Also,
Okay.
I want to make a note before you go into this. Do not let Bree lie to you and say that she chose not to do Mothman. What happened was we decided on this, and Brooke readily said Mothman, which caused quite the ruckus in the group chat.
It wasn't. You know what the worst part about that is that I'm not doing Mothman.
You whore, really?
I might as well be, but like I'm not. I kind of felt bad.
Oh.
I'm so sorry, Brie. I didn't want to tell you, but since it came up.
Well, now we know. It's fine.
Oh
my
man,
God.
I better sleep with one eye fucking open.
I guess so. The fucking snow boots are back, by the way.
Great, good. The return of.
Okay, Brianna, you may continue
for it,
with
Bree.
your not Mothman.
Sorry.
This is a Killer in the Backseat, and like you said, you guys have like kind of heard the story, so I'm just gonna give a brief synopsis because it's multiple accounts and multiple people, and they all slightly differ, but it's like an urban legend, right?
Okay.
So, the story goes something like this. A woman, and it's always a woman, gets in her car after a long night out, either from partying or working. The legend kind of differentiates, right? She starts driving down a road, and there is a car closely following behind her. She starts to get more and more anxious as the car starts driving more frantically. The car then repeatedly started flashing headlights at her. Naturally, this scared the woman. The car begins to cut her off, make frantic moves on the freeway, right? So eventually has the mindset to get some form of help. So she either runs into a gas station or pulls over into a police station. Usually it's the gas station. So she gets out and she starts to try to find a phone to call 911. When she exits the vehicle, the man that was following her also gets out of his and starts yelling at her to call 911. When the police show up, they come to discover that the man following her was trying to warn her that she saw someone in the back seat. Every time he would flash his lights at her, it was because the person in the back seat would go to stab her or hit her in some way. He was actually trying to save her life. The police then arrest the man in the back seat of the woman's car, right?
Dope.
So
Buh.
that's the typical urban legend, right? And that's the spoopy one, right? that there's some form of killer in the back seat, that the man who was stalking her was actually trying to save her life, yada yada.
Cool.
So obviously, hella spooky.
Yeah, I don't love it.
Right, no one loves it. And I continually check my car for this reason to this day. But it's not real, right?
Well,
Wrong! On February 28th of 2017, a woman in Kansas City, Missouri was sitting in her room, and this is a true fucking story that's even
it's
more
also really
spookier.
recent.
I hate that it's
very
recent. I
Like,
wish
if it
you
were
were
the
like
60s, it would
in
be fine,
1954. I was
Right.
like, thankfully back then cars were different. Was what my brain would have done. But
Good
No.
thing.
On February 28th, 2017, a woman in Kansas City, Missouri was sitting in her room when a stranger knocked on her door, entered, and said, "Megan," before leaving her home.
I was really hoping like that was the whole bit. Entered and said Megan. Anyway, that's my story.
But
Brooke,
her
if you could
name
take
was
it.
Ashley.
And they were roommates.
God, they
God,
were
they were
roommates.
roommates. Sorry.
But no, and so she said, Megan looked at the woman. The woman was like, "Hey, what are you doing in my home?"
Hey.
Before the woman didn't say anything, didn't look confused, simply walked out of the door. Right, so the woman said she had no
What's
idea.
Megan gonna do about this?
I don't
Yeah, she's gone now, so.
Right. So the woman said that she had no idea who the woman was, but she didn't seem shocked when she walked into the wrong apartment. The woman then reported the incident to the front office, but didn't really think much about it, truly. So when the woman got in her car, a man
I love
with a
that
ski
her
mask.
logic is like, I just had someone barge into my apartment. I'm gonna go get gas now. Why?
I honestly can't get over the fact that some random person walked in and went, Megan? And then she just fucking walked out, and she's like, well, that was
Okay.
strange.
Time to get gas, I guess. Go on. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. When the woman got in her car, a man with a ski mask and all black clothing pressed something in the back of her head, saying he had a gun and she should do whatever he tells her to. After tying her hands with a cable just to the point where she could drive, she followed his directions, and they ended up parking in front of a gate somewhere in a secluded area she didn't know. He wrapped a cord around her neck and started to beat her. He then began to cut her arms and hands with his knife, repeating the phrase, "Die, bitch, die." At this point, she has been stabbed and severely beaten. It's also important to note that the woman who was a victim in all this, who was kidnapped, she was in the army at some point, so she was a veteran. So she knew what to do in crisis management, right? And so at this point, she has been stabbed, severely beaten. The man then gets out of the car for a brief moment. And honestly, we don't know what he was doing. She saw the opportunity and she seized it, which thank God she did. She starts to drive away, leaving the man on the side of the road, right? Because he still left the keys in the ignition.
Right.
What she thinks happened was that he was getting some form of weapon out of the back of the car, like getting something to like harm her further, right? So the woman manages to escape and goes to the nearest place with a phone, which happened to be a grocery store. She luckily survives and places a full report to the police, but the man still hasn't been caught. So, the last real story, a little freakier than the legend. But yeah, he's still out there somewhere. And that's the latest we heard about it.
God damn.
That's the end of that
always-
story, huh?
Yeah, always fucking check the back of your car for people who are going to stab you. It's
I
a
hate that.
legitimate fear, and I,
hate
will not
this.
be
So they
made
didn't
fun
arrest
of.
him?
No,
No one
never
ever found him.
That's why
Oh, I don't like that story.
none of
Yeah.
us do.
I hate that this
that's
is
why
like
the
an
woman-
urban legend that is it's just real. It's just real.
Right. The woman said she didn't have her name released, right? Because she wanted to stay anonymous to protect herself from fear of him coming after her again.
Sure.
But yeah, he's still out in the large, so that's what keeps me up at night.
Cool guy. Cool guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's my little tidbit. It's very short. I just thought it was super freaky, and the whole Megan thing really fucking threw me.
How
'Cause
does that
you gotta-
relate?
It's not. It it was 2 separate events that happened in the same night. What the fuck is going on? Unless, like, the only thing I can imagine is it was the dude's girlfriend who, like, they had, like, some weird, like, murder, like, thing that they wanted to do together.
Okay.
Right.
Also, why was her apartment door unlocked? My God.
You know?
Ever.
So many questions.
It was in Kansas City, Missouri, so I think, like, you gotta think you're a little bit safe, right? But at the same time, like, I don't know.
Oh, wow, I hate it. Thanks, Bree.
No problem, lads.
So, also, fun fact, I also have a shitty upstairs neighbor, but is, completely out of my control.
Was that you just now?
Yeah, that's my
Oof.
upstairs neighbor. Yeah.
No, that's me. That was me.
Both of us. I hear him
Oh,
dragging
good.
furniture.
Oh, okay.
Am I the only one who has an alright living situation?
Yep.
Cool, cool.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Literally
to
at
make it
3 in the morning every night, he moves all of his furniture.
Why?
I don't know.
He just needs a change of pace.
I guess so.
Anyway, who's next?
I think that would be me, right?
Woo!
Okay,
Go, bitch.
so mine is a little less of like a thing that happened or like a story that exists as much as it is like a story about a thing that people talk about in Maryland. So I just typed up a little thing to read to y'all. Just imagine we're sitting around a campfire, you know, as
Because
you do.
we are.
We are. I
I
mean,
have my hot cocoa.
yeah, and
that will
we're
give me
roasting
gas. I
some
can't.
weenies. We're roasting some weenies over the fire, right? That's what
Love
people
that.
do. Anyway, so we got ourselves a story, kids.
I'm ready.
Let me just open my giant book. There it is. It's open now. Okay.
Thank
Long ago, way back in the days of old in the 1970s.
you. Ooh,
Scientists?
Those were not good age. That was
There,
not a good
you know, it
age.
wasn't great. It was not great. Scientists at the Beltsville Research Agricultural Center in Maryland were doing an experiment of an ungodly nature. So, on one fateful night, a researcher was working to combine the DNA of a goat with the DNA of his very human assistant. Why? Because science. No one knows. Maybe he wanted to talk to goats. Maybe he wanted some sick horns. Don't judge his life. Anyway, so one night, his experiments went terribly wrong. Or some say, terribly right. Out of the darkness of the government-funded secrecy rose the Goat Man, the hybrid of goat and man.
This is so embarrassing. Guess who also picked Goat Man?
Are you fucking serious?
You're fucking my ass.
I'm not! You said goat, and I was like, oh no!
So, ladies and gentlemen,
now
we have a case on the first time ever on TTKMeUp at night, where we have both chosen the same story. This is unbelievable. Maybe Brooke should have just stayed in her place and chosen Mothman, but you know.
It's all my fault.
I don't know, because I just thought, like, I feel like I probably didn't even text Jack, because I was
didn't
like,
either.
There's so many stories.
There's so many.
There are just so many.
I was like, the statistical probability that she would pick, like, because I was like, oh, no, she got Mothman, and Brooke apparently has someone that looks creepy, so I'm going with this. Well, this is gonna be interesting.
Okay.
No. Okay, well,
Maybe
you have
y'all
like
could
a
just, like-
story, right? Like
Yeah,
yours comes
yeah.
off the internet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess that's fine. Oh my god. I'm looking for What are the odds? I should have just done Mothman. What's wrong with me? I thought because I said it that it wouldn't be fun anymore because then you guys knew.
I don't even know who Mothman is.
Oh. We should have done
Now I'm
nothing.
bummed because Mothman's
It's all right.
pretty cool stuff.
I'm crying.
Oh
Oh.
no.
Okay, go.
Well,
The show
Goat
must go
Man.
on.
So he escaped. Is yours the Maryland Goat Man as well, or is it? Because there's a couple.
Mine's the Alabama Goat Man.
Okay, well, that's fine. Mine's a
types of
completely
goats.
different thing, so...
For 2 types of lads.
There's also the one that the whole reason why I did this was because I happened to be watching BuzzFeed Unsolved, and there's that really famous Texas goat man scene where he's like, I'm on your bridge, goat man, and I just thought that was the fucking most hilarious thing. And I was like, oh, perfect,
I
goat
love
man.
Shane. I'm a Shaniac.
He's amazing.
Hey, demons, it's me. Yeah, boy.
Your boy.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
Okay, so...
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, we have the Goat Man of Maryland. So, Goat Man happened. He escaped from the agricultural center, his bleats and screeches fading away as he fled farther and farther from the center. So now, I bring you to Fletchertown Road, just outside the city limits of Bowie, Maryland. You have taken your special someone to this secluded lover's lane to finally ask them to go steady and give them your varsity jacket or something.
Woo!
As you both settle in for some mutually consensual and slightly uncomfortable fooling around in the car, you hear something in the trees just in front of you. In the dark, all the trees look like something menacing. Sorry. Nothing. Anyway, in the dark, all the trees look like something menacing. You tell yourself that your mind is playing tricks on you, but something in your gut tells you to turn on your headlights. As you click the dial on the dash, you swear that you see something dart behind a tree, something fleshy and hairy all at once, something massive. Best case scenario, it's some kind of bear, and you better get out of there anyway before it gets any ideas, so you turn the key in the ignition and turn around back onto the road. But as you press the gas, nothing happens. You hear the engine laboring, trying to get you on your way, but the car doesn't move. Until it does. You feel the sinking feeling in your stomach that you sometimes get when you go up in an elevator. All at once, disoriented and dizzy, you realize that you're no longer looking at the road behind you, but at the forest floor. Then, the car... Sorry, Jesus Christ.
If you choke on some hot cocoa, it's fine.
Yeah, I'll just drink some of this hot chocolate really quick. Glug. The front of your car is being lifted slowly from its place on the ground, and as you realize it, your date screams. You spin around just in time to see your car drop back into place, slamming into the ground and activating your car's alarm. It's your turn to scream as you see the form of a muscular man, completely naked and impossibly tall, standing just in front of your car. Except it isn't a man. Not really.
Free has a thing for tall men. This is not the time.
Oh, Free, no, under normal circumstances, I'd be right there with you. But,
This is a goat man.
It's a goat man.
Oh, okay. You didn't mention the fact it was a goat man yet.
I'm getting to it. Just like eat your s'mores and listen. God damn it. In the now broken headlights, you can see the sheen of hair covering his entire body, and where his feet should be are strange cloven appendages that seem to resemble fleshy hooves. His face, my God, his face is elongated and seems to be slick with sweat. His ears are enormous and pointed, and his eyes are glowing a brilliant red in the dark. From the top of his head, 2 curling horns extend and glisten with what you'd swear was blood. In his right hand is an axe, for some reason. The sound you hear next is something out of a nightmare you didn't know you had. Half the anguished scream of a man and half the raging cry of a beast, it roars at you and buries its axe deep in the hood of your car. Without thinking, you punch your foot onto the gas pedal, the wheels screeching and smoking under the sudden pressure. The axe holds you in place for a terrifying moment, but you are freed as the monster before you pries it from the metal. You lurch forward as the car shoots suddenly into the road, your shaking hands cranking the wheel as hard as they can. As you crank the gear shift and flee the scene of what could have been your murder, you hear the furious screams echoing off the trees behind you. You drive in silence and drop off your date at home. It's the last time you ever see them in town. Later, you will hear him called the Goat Man. See articles in the local paper about a terrifying creature with features of a goat, but the form of a man, murdering livestock, kidnapping townsfolk, decapitating dogs. True story. Groups of monster hunters will venture into the forest late at night, nothing more than thrill-seeking teens with skeptical streaks. But you know better than to go to Fletchertown Road in the dead of night. You remember the ghoulish howls and the blood-red eyes of the Maryland Goat Man. Goat Man!
Yeah,
we need to edit a sick guitar riff in there.
I'll
That's
do what I
apparently
can.
the sick guitar riff.
Thanks, Olivia.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's royalty free, so enjoy that one.
Perfect.
Yeah, Bree, definitely not my
Do not.
favorite thing in the world to hear you go, yo, when she just
Don't.
says tall man.
Don't fuck the goat man, Bree.
Listen, after you explained the hooves and the elongated face.
Oh, now you're not into it?
I'm not into it.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Oh
He is a goat man.
Goat man.
As
Goat
soon as I
man.
hear tall,
That's not a good metric. Bree.
Did I sent you all the post about, somebody had posted about, what's it called? Ariana Grande's, like, ex-fiance, when it was,
yeah.
like, that feeling when you, like, break up with a dude who was, like, funny and charming and perfect, and then you realize he was just tall.
Yep.
I literally laughed for, like, 3 days. Like, I'd be doing something, and I just, like, think
No.
about that in the middle of Target. Like, you just go...
No, but then she sent it to me and tagged me in it with one of my ex-boyfriend's names.
No, Olivia.
Hey, am I wrong?
No, you're
Probably
not.
not.
Absolutely not. He was
Which is
6'4",
hilarious
ladies
because-
and gentlemen.
Olivia,
We all
you
do
and I are
dumb
both
things
dating
for
people
6'4".
who are over 6 foot tall,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That must be nice.
Yeah, it is. Thanks, Bree.
I hope you guys are happy.
We've all done dumb things for 6'4".
Hey, my first boyfriend was 5 foot, like, 8, so.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, one of my boyfriends was like, what was he, like 5'7"?
Oof.
And I'm
Which
5'8".
is fine. It's fine. I'm just saying if you're over 6 feet, you get immediately hotter.
That's probably just as bad, Bree.
No,
Like,
honestly, agreed. I think it's a dominance thing, maybe?
I don't know. I don't know what it
It's
is.
just my preference. If you're shorter than that, like, I will still love you. Like, it's fine. It's just, like, if you're tall, like...
Honestly, I
know.
talk a big game about liking tall dudes, but I'm immediately terrified of them and get along better with shorter people because I am 5'3".
You are? You're that small? Holy shit.
Shut up!
I'm 5'3" as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Actually,
I'm
I'm
5'8",
5'3.5".
so...
Shut up.
I just like the fear,
Oh, God.
So mine
This is-
made it
this is
more
getting into
attractive
weird
because I'm taller.
territory.
Or does that not how that work for women?
Wait, repeat that? What'd you say?
Am I more attractive because I'm tall, or does that not work for women? Is that the reverse thing?
I think that works for women as well. I don't know. You're more noticeable. Because, like, when people look for me,
Okay,
they're looking like
I'm
a
gonna
foot
read
taller.
my story.
People always
You're
look like a
more
head taller
noticeable.
than me. Because, like, they're like, oh, where's Brooke? And they look, like, at eye level with themselves. And they're like, oh, she must not be here. But no, just look a little bit lower, dude. I'm right there. God. I'm so short.
Jesus Christ.
I need a nap.
I'm also doing Goatman.
God.
I don't know if you found a ton of information on Goatman, but I did not find a ton of information on Goatman. And I
you
think
also did the Alabama goat man, so it's a completely different thing.
Well, I went to the Wikipedia, and there was not a lot of information for me to draw off of. And I think it's honestly, it just comes down to, like, the more popular an urban legend is, the more detailed there's going to be, because there's more people willing to make shit up
that's
about
true.
it. My favorite origin story about the goat man, and this is my truth, so I don't care what you say about scientists. This one's my faves.
Live your truth.
So I love that, like, your goat man thing makes sense, right? Like, it's a goat man.
Does it?
Right?
Does it? Because the theory is that they were creating goat-person hybrids in a lab about agriculture. So I'm not really sure
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that reads.
Yeah, that reads to me.
That follows for you. Cool.
My favorite
like
favorite
that's
origin
logical.
story though is Goat Man is a man who owned goats and then went crazy when teenagers tried to steal his goats.
I heard about that.
That is my favorite thing. Like, can you imagine teenagers like, man, I stole that fucker's goats, and now he's like really weird about it. What a weird goat man, you know?
And somewhere on a farm, a man is just like, because he's really angry, you know? Anybody?
He spends too much time with his goats, right? Which is fine, It's just he hasn't found that special person yet. So
He has.
when
She's just a goat.
when the delinquents move onto his land,
that was rough.
That was rough.
What?
I implied that he was a goat fucker, that's all. Don't worry about it.
Oh.
A tall goat fucker
No, that doesn't make it.
Are you sure it doesn't make it better, Bree? Are
Bree,
No,
you
because when I
sure?
hear tall as like the first thing, I'm like, ooh, tall, I'm interested. But if it's preceded with goat fucker, then no. That immediately cancels it out.
So, I have found a story. So the story literally kept me up at night. It's from Creepypasta. Literally all artistic credit goes to the author of this creepypasta. It's titled Anansi's Goatman Story. Read the whole thing. Like, I just couldn't read it verbatim because it's a lot longer, so I wanted to condense it into Campfire story length. I did not write this. I'm not taking credit for this. I've just abridged it. So feel free to give them some cred. I don't want to be a Goatman story stealer, you know? So
Who's the author?
it didn't say because it's like it was copied and pasted from Reddit. Not Reddit, from 4chan, and then edited to make it more readable.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's like a repost at this point, but I still feel bad because someone put the elbow grease in, and I'm not taking credit for it, you know?
Yeah,
Very
if we
noble,
find who
Olivia.
did it, we can post it, like, in the description for this episode.
Yeah,
Dope.
for sure.
So, the story begins with Anansi, a city kid visiting his cousins in Alabama. So he's visiting them, typical summer, you know. Hold on, I have to burp. Nope, went away. Burp went away. Okay.
Dead burp.
So the reason he went down, you know, typical summer story, wanted to hang out with his cousins in Alabama, go camping, hunting, the huge Alabama stuff. And so he gets there, they start packing up and heading out because his uncle owns a cabin out there in the forest, right? So they're heading out towards the cabin, just hiking up. It's close, like they have a property nearby, right? And while they're in the forest, they come across a hunter and his son, Tanner. So the hunter tells him, hey, you know, you might not want to come up here because some of my livestock has actually been attacked by a big animal recently. I'm out and about trying to hunt it, but like I would recommend you leave. You know, but they've done this before. They've been camping here for years. They're like, you know, 16, 17 ages, right? So they're like, nah,
Right,
it's
yeah.
fine. Don't worry about it. We got a cabin. We got a place to stay. It's all good. So
Silly
Tanner,
teens.
those teens.
Oh, those
They know what's
teens.
up.
So Tanner asks if he can join them because they're, you know, about the same age and they're totally okay with it. The more the merrier. His dad says, as long as you're safe and you stay close together, I'm totally fine with you staying out here. So, totaling it up, there are a total of 11 people, including Anansi, Tanner, and all of Anansi's family, right? So, like 5 girls, 6 boys. Remember that number.
Okay.
Remember that number. So they finally get to the clearing near the cabin, and they start setting up camp, unloading everything, setting up everything in the cabin. And they start smelling this like really weird ozone smell. So for anybody that doesn't know it, like if it gets really stormy and there's like a lot of electricity in the air still, it's kind of like this metallic-ish smell is the best way I can describe it, right? They're just a little confused because the sky isn't that cloudy. It's pretty clear, but they definitely smell some ozone, which makes them a little nervous because it means there might be a storm. So, at about 7, well past sunset, Tanner and his cousins head out to get his stuff. So Tanner goes and he goes back to his property with 2 of the cousins to pick up some things. While he's there, his dad suggests that he takes, you know, some shotguns because he's still worried about the animal that's been out and about. But he says, no, don't worry about it. There's like 11 people. We're all good, right? So 30, 40 minutes later, they start smelling ozone again, which is getting a lot stronger. So at that point they think, I don't know, maybe this is like a malfunction, somebody left a hot plate on, there's something wrong with the car, right? And as they're kind of looking about and trying to figure out where this smell is coming from, the 2 cousins and Tanner bolt down the path and sprint into the cabin. So everybody follows them in because they look panicked. After they take some time to calm down, they talk about what they saw on their way back. So they'd picked up their stuff, and about halfway back to camp, they heard some rustling in the woods. And they shine their lights into the trees, and it lands on a male figure. Didn't say if he's tall or not, Bree. So I can't tell you that.
I'm not interested in the goat man. I'm not.
Agreed. Is
I
a goat
heard
fucker.
tall figure.
Goat man, goat fucker? Is that a
Goat man, goat
fucker?
fucker. Goat man
God.
fucker.
Oh my god.
We're gonna sell buttons that say goat man fucker.
Anyway,
Is this my legacy? Is this my legacy?
they tell him to fuck off because he's, freaking them
They
out.
tell him to goat fuck off. I apologize.
Anyways, they tell him to fuck off because he's freaking him out. But when they shine the light on him, he's facing away from them, and he's like maybe a couple hundred feet into the trees. So they keep walking, and they started noticing that weird ozone-y metallic smell, right? And so they look back, and they shine their flashlight back, and they realize he's gotten a little bit closer to the path, but he's still facing away from them. So they start picking up speed, and the smell gets stronger and stronger. And they start hearing in the trees sounds of rustling and gibbering, the goat gibbering, if you will. And they book it back to camp because they see that there's something in the trees, and it's really late at this point. And as they're telling this story, everybody is smelling a very, very overpowering ozone smell. And then at the end of the story, they're kind of bickering back and forth about what to do, and the smell just vanishes completely. Not like slowly tapers off, like they're completely gone, right?
Huh.
So they stay for a little longer, considering it's safe, just like a weird incident, right? Nothing really eventful happens, so they're not super worried. So maybe one of the following nights, they're telling ghost stories really late at night, getting drunk, and then that ozone-y smell hits them like a truck, right? And this time it's so strong that one of the girls in the group literally just turns over and vomits. So it awakens a little bit of fear in the three who have witnessed this man and this smell, and they run inside of the cabin and start talking about what happens. Some of them are a little more sensitive and afraid. The other ones think that everybody's being a little overdramatic. But just for the sake of everybody that's nervous, they start hunkering down and just decide to stay in the cabin for the rest of the night. So they pull out 3 4-packs of hot dogs, and they start cooking the hot dogs and doling out food for everyone. And one of the guys is still hungry, and he goes over to get the last hot dog, right? And he complains that somebody already took the last hot dog without asking. And Anansi looks over at him and goes, "That's not possible. Like, I made enough hot dogs for all of the 12 people that were here." How many people were there? 11! So they quickly sprint out of the cabin, and then once outside, they do a head count again. 11. Right? So they get back into the cabin, because they don't want to be out late, and 11. And so one of the girls, Kira, says actually she had done a head count and realized that there were 12 people when they were going back and forth about the hot dogs. And right before she was going to say something, somebody grabbed her leg and hissed something in her ear, but she couldn't understand it. So she's freaking out. Everybody that had seen the man in the forest is freaking out. Tanner's freaking out. But there are still a couple people that think it's just a big joke. Somebody miscounted. Somebody just took a hot dog and now they don't want to admit that they took the hot dog. Big bear, big mood. And, about half of the group is scared shitless at this point. So they decide, we'll talk about it in the morning. We obviously can't do anything when it's 1 a.m. and it's pitch black. And they decide to all go to sleep, right? So as soon as day breaks, they bicker back and forth, and they resolve that the 4 people that want to go home, including Kira, the one that was touched, they could all go home, right, now that it's daylight. But Anansi, it's his uncle's cabin, so he literally cannot leave until everybody else leaves, because he's got to lock up the cabin. So the 4 leave. It's a tense day at camp. They're just hanging out and drinking, but they're kind of bummed that some people left. So at around 4, while the sun is still up, Tanner decides he's going to go back to his property for a bit, and he's going to pick up the hunting rifles his dad said he should have brought out, right? But he should be back before sundown, maybe like 5. So the remaining 7 people continue to hang out and wait for him to come back, right? So at about 5:30ish, it's getting dark, and Tanner hasn't returned yet. One of the cousins leans over to Anansi and asks why Kira's acting kind of weird. And Anansi does a double take because he could have sworn that she had left in the morning. Like, she was the most adamant that they should all pack up and go home, right? And so they look over and they realize that she's just staring directly at the fire and not moving. And, you know, half of the people think it's a joke, half the people don't think it's a joke. And one of the girls says, "You guys are being ridiculous." And she walks over, and about halfway to Kira sitting there, she just freezes. And Kira starts twitching and heaving silently, like full body laugh, but no noise. And they realize that the entire forest has gotten dead quiet. Like, there's not sounds of insects or birds. The air feels clammy, and it reeks of ozone. Right? So they shout to get back in the cabin, and they do a head count. 6. There were 7 people when Tanner left.
Yeah.
So someone's keeping an eye on, you know, Kira through the window. She's still by the fire. And when they lean out the window, somebody slams on the door and screams, "Let me the fuck in, I'm stop playing." And they realize that Tanner's still out there, right? So they let Tanner in, do a head count, 7, including Tanner, all is well. That seems the right amount. And Kira's still standing out there, right? Tanner said that he had gotten back to camp and he saw her standing there. And, you know, he doesn't know everybody in this group super well because he's kind of new. He was like, "That's really weird that she's kind of like out and about. I don't know where everybody else is." And he started walking towards the cabin. And he realizes that Kara is just staring at him and tracking him as he walks towards the cabin, slack-jawed with like a glazed look in her eye.
I don't like that at all.
So he thought nothing of it. He's like, kind of weird, but okay, and starts
Thought
walking
nothing
towards
of
the
it.
cabin and turns around and realizes that she's slowly inching towards him, like, without him realizing it, right? So he starts walking a little faster, gets to the door, and realizes it's locked and turns around, and he realizes she's halfway to him, right? So that's when he freaks out. They let him in. They look back outside, and she's disappeared. And so they all confer, and they go, "How many people were here today?" And everybody 100% agrees 8 people were here today. But again, the head count says 7, and Kira left in the morning. So at this point, Tanner says when he was up at his dad's house, he called his cousin and asked him to come down. He just wanted another guy, another gun, right? Because they're all scared at this point, right? Told him that there was a big animal in the woods, the same one that has been terrorizing the animals at home. And his cousin decides to come out, right? So they wait a little bit. They're trying to calm down, relax, and then they hear a gentle knock at the door. Tanner opens it up and realizes it's his cousin, right? Lets him in, and he looks around and goes, "Hey, where's your other little buddy? I thought she'd meet me here at the camp." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, you know, on my way down, there was this girl in the road who I just assumed as part of your camp. You're the only people camping out here that I know of. And she was kind of shuffling a bit, staring at me kind of slack jaw. And no matter how fast or slow that I walked, she was always like a little bit behind me. I don't know, is she like slow or something?" Like, he's trying to prod, and they're like, "We don't know what you're talking about. Like, these are all of the people that are in our camp." And he's like, "Well, it was really weird because I was trying to walk back, and like, at some point I looked at her, I said, 'Are you okay? Like, do you want me to carry you to the camp? Like, you're walking kind of slow. Is everything okay?" She just stared at him with a dead glazed eye, like, no response. He said it got to the point where he turned around and she went from being a couple steps behind him to like nearly on top of him, and he was like, "Is something up? Are you okay?" And he's trying to keep an eye on her. He says, "You know, we had some point we hit a curve in the road, and I looked back and she was gone. So I just assumed that she was like cutting through and getting back to the camp." And then he goes, "Also, are you guys like cooking blood here or something? Because like the entire path up to here reeked of blood." Right?
Are you cooking blood?
Sometimes when you're like hunting, like if you're like cooking, like
sure.
it can bloody smell.
Yes.
So the entire area reeks of that ozone, which we've determined is blood smell. That metallic-y back of your throat blood smell. So at that moment, there is a aggressive slamming on the cabin door, and a hoarse voice starts rasping, "Let me in, stop fucking playing," and continues to beat on the door on again, off again for a few hours. They can't get a good look of what's out there, but they know it's the goat man, right? So at some point, you know, it's an on again, off again knocking. You can hear him shuffling around the cabin, shuffling around the bushes, coming back and knocking. And at some point when they hear that the noise is coming from a group of bushes nearby, Tanner's cousin goes out and shoots at the bushes with his rifle, immediately leading to it screaming for 2 hours in agony, right? So
Cool.
Tanner decides to stay on watch and watch them all sleep with his rifle ready, and everybody goes to sleep because the yelling stops. So in the morning, Anansi thanks Tanner for keeping watch and calling his cousin. They all pack up immediately as soon as the sun is up, right? They fill up their vans, they pack up their stuff, they're doing head counts, and Tanner says, hey, why don't you let me lock up and I'll meet you guys up the path, go on without me. And he goes, yeah, okay, just, don't go too far off. It's about 20 minutes later, Tanner sprints up. Tanner's alive. It's all right, buddies. Tanner's alive.
Okay, I was gonna say famous last fucking words.
Yeah, and so Tanner pulls aside Anansi and says, I didn't want to say anything last night because I didn't want to freak anyone out, but the thing got in last night. What? And so Tanner was keeping watch. He was doing head counts and realized that there was one more person than accounted for. And he said, I can immediately tell who it was, because whoever it was, they would stand up periodically and twitch and heave and then lie back down, just at random intervals. So when he realized that the goat man was there, he just pretended to be asleep and watched him for the rest of the night. So the reason why he wanted to stay was he wanted to do a quick investigation of the cabin, figure out where the goat man was coming from. And he realized that when he went to the bathroom, that the bathroom door was wide open. And the window didn't have a screen on it. So essentially for the entire weekend, the goat man would be sneaking in through the window, basically shape-shifting and blending in with them, and then leaving. Because he would disappear in a split second, the second they all ran out of the house, right?
Jeez,
And so as he was running up to catch the group, he turned around to make sure the goatman wasn't following him, and the goatman just made eye contact with Tanner and then disappeared into the wood. So that's my fun story. Cool. I lost a lot of sleep. I was spooked.
Woof.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
I hated that.
Oh, thanks. I hate that. Yeah.
Wow.
Spooky.
Good stuff.
Spooky.
Well, I think it still turned out incredible, though. I mean, both were Goatman stories, but both were drastically different.
Yeah.
Yeah, they seemed like different things entirely.
Yeah, yours was good writing, and I was running off a creepypasta.
I loved it. I thought it was great, gang.
Yeah, this was a fun little event that we had. So
yeah. Since we're all camping out here, I hope we don't get eaten by the goat man.
Oh, do not.
I can keep watch with a rifle.
Yeah, perfect. With these rifles that we brought for camping.
Honestly, from here on out, if anybody in any context ever says, hey, you should bring a rifle with you before you go.
Yes.
I don't care what the context is, always taking that rifle. Whether it's
or
to the camping or
don't
Walmart.
Go to a place where you need a rifle to defend what? Let's not make that venture, boys.
I don't know, man. Yeah, dude, if I was actually for realsies in that situation, I think I would actually have a panic attack. Break down incomprehensible panic attack.
Oh, 100.
Cannot.
No.
Yeah, dude, while I was reading that, my upstairs neighbor is fucking rearranging his furniture for some reason, and there's random slams, and I actually jumped. I was like, ah!
Did you really?
Yeah. Go, man.
So
oof. Did not like that. Not a fan of the goat man.
Yeah, goat man can go suck a dick.
A goat dick.
Oh my god. Oh,
these are getting worse.
Oh.
Anyway, I'm glad that y'all could join us. Let's wrap it up with our requests to give us reviews on iTunes.
Yes, that would be wonderful. Yeah, so I mean, if you've been here for a while, you already know that the best way for us to get promoted on iTunes is to get reviews from you guys. So if you like what you heard today, go ahead and give us one of those good old 5-star reviews. If you didn't, don't say anything because it'll hurt our feelings. And
100%. I'm a very fragile person.
Yeah, that would be very damaging to our psyches. But that's on you. Yeah. So you can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at TTKMeUp and get updates about the show or just us fooling around on the internet. That's what we do. Next week is gonna wrap up our pandemics series, and I will be presenting my pandemic.
I'm excited.
And then right after that, we're gonna have another mini-sode with a very, very, very special guest, and we'll probably announce that before it happens. But we're gonna not do that today.
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome.
I'm
You guys are
excited.
gonna love it.
Are we announcing what the next series is, or is that in top secrets?
Okay, yeah, you can go ahead and announce that if you want.
Okay. And our next series, which I'm excited about, is unsolved non-murder related mysteries.
Very clearly non-murder.
Because I want to keep that open for other things.
Yeah,
you know?
we gotta do murders later.
I know.
Yeah,
so
murders are coming up. Don't worry. There'll
murder
be a lot of death.
will come. So it's
But
gonna
for now,
happen.
we're gonna tease you with non-murders.
With non-murders. But I'm very excited. I know what I'm doing, and I have I have all the info. I just gotta smack it on some paper. I have a creative process. But it's gonna be mine's definitely kind of like, we'll see. It'll be a fun surprise. So
Yeah.
I have.
And this
nothing
time we
else to
should
say.
probably text Jack because we don't want this happening again.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
that
The
would be
one
so
time.
awkward.
Legitimately, the one time we don't text our third-party person because of the fact that there's so many.
There's so
because it was a
many. What is the
mini-sode, like-
statistical probability? I'll ask my roommate.
So
She's
low.
in computer science. She'll let me know what the statistical probability is.
Oh, it's so stupid.
I love it. No, I love it. It was complimentary.
great.
It was pretty
'cause-
funny.
Yeah, it was fun. So, thank you for joining us. I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed the fire.
Hell yeah.
I guess it's been real, my dudes.
It sure has. We love you.
Deuces.
Get your flu shot.
Yes.
Yes. Bye.
See ya.